Edi Patterson, hi. It's great to talk to you about Righteous Gemstones. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. So I hope I say this with all of the people that I interview. I hope you're doing well with the pandemic and all of the social uprising and unrest that's ongoing. It's a 2020 has been the most bizarre world to live in. But hopefully you're doing well and managing.
I am, and I feel honestly kind of lucky to be alive during all of this. It's a wild and exciting time, I think.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it. So before we get started on Righteous Gemstones, I want to ask you, I heard that you're a huge fan of horror films. That's your statement? Huge?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so Danny has been working on Halloween, but I
Yep.
don't see you in Halloween. What's going on with
Yeah,
that?
I don't either. I don't know, man. Let's get him on the horn.
Yeah, I think we should. I think you should be. Of course, I guess he's. I guess maybe that ship has sailed because I think he just filmed the other two back to back here in Wilmington, North Carolina. So
yes,
close to
they
me.
did.
So
I mean,
wow.
in all fairness, I think probably he and David were trying to keep it kind of two different worlds. You know,
yeah.
Gemstones are not the world of Halloween, and that's fair enough.
That's fair. But you know, he loves horror too, so you guys have to collaborate on a project.
Yeah, for sure. We have one that we started a while back that we have a draft of that we talk about going back in to visit based on this short story that we both like. So yeah, I think at some point we'll finish that for sure, and then probably crank out something different. Yeah.
So favorite horror film?
Man, my favorite. So there's kind of two categories. My favorite, as in I think it's the best of all time, is The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very into psychological horror.
Sure.
I like things that create a vibe and create dread and make you feel like yucky when you go to bed. I'm not that into jump scares and stuff, unless there's a psychological element to it. But I think The Shining's the best ever. Maybe my favorite though is this one that I was obsessed with that I saw way too early, like way too young a kid. But this movie called Silver Bullet. Do you know that one?
Oh, the Stephen King werewolf story. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it Stephen King? Yeah, it is Stephen King, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's awesome. And I rewatched it recently. It's an 80s horror movie, and I watched it recently, and it's so good, dude. It's so genuinely good.
Yeah. You know, I grew up so we lived in the country, and my parents had a satellite dish, and you know, I had free reign to all this stuff. And I remember growing up on the USA Network, they used to show like Friday the 13th on a Saturday afternoon in the middle of the day. Like today, we would flip out if we saw that on regular cable. But back then, it was like, woohoo, have at it.
Totally. I mean, that must be where I saw some stuff. Like we had a VHS of Silver Bullet that my sister and I watched all the time. My dad is really into horror movies too, and so he kind of let us watch them way too early. But yeah, we didn't have cable in our house, but my grandma had it, and a couple of our family friends had it, and so it was like the most awesome, amazing treat to be at someone's house and like secretly get a horror movie on cable, because I was used to watching them on regular TV, like you're saying, where there's still scary stuff, but like it's way scarier on cable.
Right. I remember the first time I saw The Shining, which was on like the ABC movie of the week, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I think probably me too.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving on to the Righteous Gemstones. So HBO and Danny and David Gordon Green approached you with the Righteous Gemstones. And of course, it's about a televangelist family, a religious family. But when you read the script, you know, were you surprised that it wasn't more satirical about religion?
I wasn't actually, because Danny and I had talked a fair bit about it. He knew that he wanted me to play his sister in it. Mm-hmm. And so we had talked a lot, and I really liked the direction he was going with it, where it's basically a family of believers, but they're just like very messed up people. But that it's not a lampooning or a stabbing of religion in any way. Because I don't think I don't think his goal was ever to like go after people who believe something.
Right.
It was more just to, highlight complicated people.
Right. So you're following this up from, shortly thereafter, Vice Principals, which was also with Danny and with Walton Goggins, the great Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
By the second project, you guys must have some kind of shorthand on how you work together and sort of the notes that you need to hit. I mean, is it easier, to find your comic rhythms again, working with them on a second project?
Luckily, yeah, just because you're better friends than you were the first time. But luckily, I had a thing with all those dudes, with Jody and Danny and David and Walton, even though I didn't have a ton of scenes with Walton, but where I understood them. And I always know that that Danny or David or Jody, whoever's directing that episode, I know we all just want the best thing. And I know there's a freedom with them that we'll get it always the way it's written. But then I know if Danny and I are in a scene, there'll probably come a point where we can just let it rip a little bit, and where I can say something in character and he'll just say something in character back, and maybe we'll find a whole new like little alley in the scene that we've gone down that we didn't foresee before. And Jody's really awesome about sort of seeing where those things can open up, and David's really awesome, awesomely specific, and he likes to come in with ideas as well. And yeah, I would say if anything, it's just more ease and better friendships. But I love those dudes forever. They're all genuinely great people, and so bright, so smart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at your character of Judy, one thing that as I rewatched the first season, she seems to be like an exercise in just frustration, because she's not seen. Like I think she feels like she's not seen as she's not on that same playing field that all her brothers are on in terms of the circuit, right? And that's eventually why she goes down that path of being the sort of Baby Billy's new singing partner. Is that how you intended to play it? Would you agree with that assessment?
Totally. I mean, that's just the feeling that she always gave me, and the like a tightness that is bound to unfurl and let loose sometimes. And I think because she's wound so tight and is so frustrated, I think that's why it comes out even messier and possibly meaner and sadder sometimes than her brothers, because it's so balled up so tight that when the juice squirts out, it's like a mess.
Right. So if one key to playing her is keeping the sort of emotions really balled up, what else is there that helped you find the character? Like, how else did you decide who she was and how you were going to play her, and how big you would take it versus how, maybe reserved sometimes? How did you find the character?
Yeah, interestingly, I try to find her, because I think that everything about her is very relatable and really human. And so mostly I'd find it in me and try to turn it up or turn it down. Usually with Judy, it's turning up the volume with whatever, not just audio wise, but it's I think she feels big. Like, she feels big feelings, like a little kid almost all the time. And to me, I see like a volume dial in my head that's it's sort of tweaking it one way or the other. And that might be like, all the way turned up to 9 when she's like trying to impress her dad, or like all the way turned up to 9 when she's so mad at her brother. Like, but yeah, it's mostly crank the volume thing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. But it's not, the volume isn't as high as it was on Mrs. Abbott in Vice Principals.
No, well, Miss Abbott was a different, she weirdly, the difference between like frustrated and desperate comes to mind.
Right.
I think Miss Abbott was desperate and probably legitimately mentally ill. Like there was a lot going on.
There was a lot going on there for sure.
And I'm not saying there's not a lot going on with Judy, but it's maybe not as complicated of mental illness.
Right.
Yeah.
So I asked this I talked to Adam Devine a couple of weeks ago,
Oh, cool.
and I asked him this same question. And I'm very interested in how how people find the character through costumes. Like, with him, it's a very specific wardrobe. It's a very specific look with the hair stuck up, all of that. Yep. So what kind of look did you work through the costume department with on Judy?
So this, I actually love talking about this because this was so, always Sarah Trost, like anything she's done with Miss Abbott and Judy, like opens floodgates in my brain that I thought I already knew the floodgates were open, and then she'll have done something that I'm like, oh, got it. So like with Judy, when we first were looking at, she sent me some of her early drawings, and I think I still had some maybe some little vestiges of Edi, of my self vanity in it, and I was like, oh cool, we're gonna go like retro cool stuff. Great. Oh cool, yeah, it's retro. She's gonna wear all clothes her mom used to wear, and like awesome. And I think in my head I still was like, great, I'll look great. or I wanted to look great, if that makes sense. And then the wig got worked out, and that did something to me, and it changes my entire face, and just makes me a little more awkward. And then Sarah started having me try stuff on, and it was mostly like very churchy, like power suits, like skirt power suits. And there was something about the slight dorkiness of that. I mean, of course, Judy gets fancy once she gets seen by Baby Billy and then is a star. But
right.
There was something about the slight lameness of what Sarah had planned for me that was so great and so freeing, because it helped me to go like, oh, right, that's me. And it helped me to feel a little like, I don't know, to feel a little lame in those clothes, and to know that, God, it's so complicated, but what she does is so genius, because I know that Judy doesn't ever think she's lame. Judy thinks she's the hottest thing on earth, and is very insecure sometimes, but the mix of me knowing those clothes are kind of lame and Judy thinking she looks great in them, there's something about it that just worked for me. They were lamer than I thought they would be, in the best way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
they helped him knock me off my footing a little bit and more become Judy. Yeah, which Sarah Trost has a superpower at. She'll, like, if you're right on the edge of like, I think I know exactly what this character is, she'll give you that push with the costumes, and you're like, now I know. Okay. And I'm not totally comfortable with it, but you're right.
That's good. It's not comfortable in a great way. Yeah. So when you look at Judy and her husband BJ, fiance. Sorry, I guess I should say fiance. Yeah. There's a lot going in their relationship, but a lot of it is unsaid, right? I mean, she never, she very rarely just comes out very explicitly and says what I feel that she is exactly thinking about him. How do you play that relationship? Like, where do you think that she really is with him? Like, I just feel often she's just completely mortified by him in every way.
I think that Judy and BJ are honestly made for each other. I think they're like, honestly, a really, really good couple. I think that she desperately wants him to be accepted and thought cool by her dad and her brothers. But he's just not. But I think he really loves her and thinks she's awesome. And I think like she's probably knows that she's so lucky to have that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think sometimes she's mortified because she knows he doesn't fit with the Gemstone boys. Right. I mean, they would, they would and do eat him alive.
Absolutely.
So I think it's more just, sometimes it's even like mortified out of being scared for him.
Yeah.
And yeah, just embarrassed, like, oh, you're embarrassing me,
Right.
Yeah, I'm not saying Judy's nice to him all the time. She's surely not.
No, but then that wouldn't be the comedy in the situation, right?
Sorry for so much phone moving. Mosquitoes are eating me.
Oh, it is the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about the series is the song Misbehavin.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's one of,
yeah.
I know you had a hand in writing that too with Joseph and with, of course, Danny. Talk to me about working on that song. Talk to me about, had you written songs before?
Yeah, I've written songs before for various things. Like I'm a groundling, and sometimes I'll write musical sketches and write songs for those. And I was part of this musical parody of the Fellowship of the Ring, in which I played Legolas and Arwen, and co-wrote songs for that. So yeah, I've written a fair amount of songs before. I don't write or read music, but I can sing and have a pretty good ear for writing melodies and stuff. And we kind of knew what we wanted it to be. We knew Baby Billy and Amy Lee had this hit, and we knew it was like that old kind of country church style. We knew we wanted that vibe of it. And then one day in the writer's room, Danny kind of just said the first line of Mama Told Me Not To, I Did It Anyway, Misbehavin'. And he said the first two lines actually. And that sparked something in me. And I was like, oh, it's like that. Got it. And so then I wrote a chunk about the, pies on the windowsill and swimming in the creek and catching crawdads and playing with a stick and the lipstick and shaving and all that. So I wrote this middle chunk and we were like, oh, wow, we get what this is. It's about these little kids out in the country doing bad things that are really
like shaving.
bad. Yes. Yeah. Putting on lipstick and pretending to shave. Yeah. And so we were really liking what it was doing, and we had just sort of discovered a melody. This all happened so fast. It was one of those sort of magic songs. And then we just popped into Danny's office and into his phone. I just sang it into the phone, and we sent it to Joey that night and said, we kind of think we have a big chunk of this, but do whatever you think to it. And then Joey makes it more magical and awesome and puts different layers on it, and wrote some lines, including what I think is the funniest line in the song of running through the house with
a pickle in my mouth. Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yes. So our giant chunk was written, and Joey sent it back with that. And we're like, I think this is weirdly done.
Yeah. Especially when it comes out of Walton's mouth, when he performs that number. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So, did you, when you're performing it in the series, did you look back at Jennifer and the way that does Judy try to replicate Amy Lee when it's actually performed?
I think it's more like she wants to be like her in a general sense. She wants to shine like her. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't think Judy's necessarily like exactly copying her motions, or I think she just wants to be important and good like her, and make her mom proud.
Yeah.
And show like, look, I can be like you.
Yeah. There's just this, even thinking back on it now, there's just this intense sort of undercurrent of sadness in her.
In Judy. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think probably her mom was I think her mom got her.
Yeah.
And understood her her frustration and anger and the way it would come out, and was probably frustrated with her a lot, but I think understood her in a way that maybe her dad and her brothers don't quite yet. And so I think when her mom died, she probably was like, oh God, now nobody gets me. Ah!
Right. Yeah.
So I think she probably was in a bit of a free fall.
So without giving anything away, I know that you and the team were prepping season 2 before the COVID pandemic hit.
Yeah. Almost all the way had finished writing the season. Yeah.
Because I think
we had
Adam
started shooting.
Oh, really? Yeah, because I think Adam was telling me he was getting ready to. He had gone in for like wardrobe fittings and was getting the hair right and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden go home. Sorry, it's So
I shot one day, and then another day was filmed, and then we stopped. Yeah.
Wow. So
BJ and I did a scene.
Oh, okay. So without giving anything away, what can we expect from Judy in season 2, just thematically?
Let's see. Wow, that's a toughie when you go like without
because
giving
you can't give
anything
away.
Yeah. I mean, I think. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do we see her continuing the singing? Obviously.
Yeah, I think you'll see some of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's a start.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. I think the main exciting thing about season 2 is if you like these idiots and the way they deal with problems and challenges, you'll just get to see more of their complicated personalities.
So what's interesting about, like, is this a 2-season series, or is there going to be will there be additional seasons, or is it written as Vice Principals was written as a 2-season in and done?
Yeah, Vice Principals was seen as 2 semesters of a school year. And I think Righteous Gemstones, we would love to keep making it for a long time.
All right.
Yeah.
Because one thing I found really interesting about Vice Principals is it was one thing in that first semester, if you will, as you said, and then it just like escalated, like, everybody just went completely off the rails in the second.
Totally.
And, do we expect that same sort of escalation of lunacy in the second season of Righteous Gemstones, or is it kind of maintaining more of a consistent level?
I think that I think probably the first season of Righteous Gemstones is a good example in that I think Danny's a fan of making a season a whole thing. Like if you notice in the first season of Righteous Gemstones, it really wraps up. I mean, it really starts getting shot out of a cannon. 1,000 things are happening and it's getting crazy and crazy. And then it's almost like you could watch that first season as a whole contained story. And I think it's more like that. I think it's like, yeah, I mean, I think, things will ramp up for sure, but I think even within the season they'll ramp up, if that makes sense.
It does.
I think it'll be a fun arc that doesn't have the intent of like gotta be crazier than the last one.
Right.
But I think it's going to be a blast.
Well, like everything else, we'll just have to wait until it's safe to film, obviously.
Sure. Yeah. Fingers crossed that'll be sooner than later. Yeah.
Yeah. So last question for you. I know we talked about your love of horror earlier, but if you could pick sort of your dream role, like your next project after Righteous Gemstones, what would that be?
Well, okay, 2 answers. Okay. So one would be, I would like to keep doing Righteous Gemstones for a really long time. And then in our hiatus, I would like to film this movie that Danny and I wrote for me. That I'm the lead of, and it's sort of a buddy movie with me and someone who would play my son.
Okay.
And it's and it's really, I think it's really, really good, and I know we'll make it at some point, but that's really what I would like to do next. Horror wise, yeah, that is comedy. It's it's almost in the vein of like almost a 1970s vibe comedy though, of like in the feeling of like Harold and Maude, or where it's got a ton of heart and it's sort of weird and a little dark at times. but yeah, for sure it's comedy.
Okay.
And then if I were to do a horror movie, I would love to do something like Hereditary, or something like The Babadook, that's so psychological and so intense, and just requires tons of hardcore just acting your face off.
Yeah. Or your head off in Hereditary.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Edi, thank you so much. This has been a really tremendous conversation. So best of luck to you, and stay safe in the weeks and months ahead. And hopefully you're able to get back to Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah. Knock some wood. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Take care.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.